Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Jaya Gopi Jana Ballabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Ballabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Ballabha Yashodanandana Rajadanarandana Yashodanandana Rajadanarandana Ramana Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Ballabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Ballabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Rajadanarandana Yashodanandana Rajadanarandana Yamuna Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, 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 Hare Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, 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 Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Jai Vishnupada Paramahamsa Pri Vrajgacharya Stotra Satta Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Terabai Charanarvinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Nanta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Skandi BT Founder Charya's Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Samaveta Bhakti Vrinda Ki Harinam Sankirtan Ki Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Janita Gaura Pimanande. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Sri Guru, to Sri Gauranga, all glories to Sri Prabhupada. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Takshurangritam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhuktale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Juta Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavam Sya Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Ragunatam Vitam Tvam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Sri Visakam Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Taptakanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Suti Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya Cha Patikanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Narayanam Namaskritya Dharam Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraya. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is a very means of conquest, let us first offer respectful obeisances unto Narayana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Narayana Rishi, the supremmost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta Prayasabhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttamaśloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. By regularly hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering service unto the pure devotee, all that is troublesome within the heart becomes destroyed practically to nil, and loving devotional service unto the Supreme Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, becomes established as an irrevocable fact. Idam Bhagavatam Nama Puranam Brahma Samhita Uttama Charitam Sakara Bhagavan Nirishi Nishreyasaya Lokasya Dhamyam Swasyayanam Maha. This Srimad Bhagavatam, known as the Grantaraj, the king of all Vedic literatures, is the literary incarnation of God. It is compiled by the incarnation of God as Srila Vyasadeva. It is meant for the ultimate good of all people. It is all successful, all blissful, and all perfect. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Krishna Krishna,
Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Rama Rama,
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Sarabhyaya Namaha. Om Sarabhyaya Namaha. Om Sarabhyaya Namaha. Mukham karoti vasalam pangum nangayate girim yat kripa tamaham bande Shri Gurum Vinataranam. Yat kripa tamaham bande Shri Gurum Vinataranam. Hare Krishna. Welcome to our morning Bhagavatam class. We are continuing from Canto 2, reading from chapter 6, which is entitled Purusha Sukta Confirmed. And today we are doing text 27. Is it? 20? Huh? 30. Okay. No, not 30. We spoke yesterday about sacrifices, yajna, samskaras. The verse was talking about dakshina. That was, we did 26. 27 we did not do. 27 we did not do. You have to keep record.
Yeah, 27.
Thank you. From 30 to 27. Okay, 27. Gatayo Matayash Chaiva Prayaschittam Samarpanam Purusha Bhayavair Ete Sambharaha Sambrita Maya Gatayo Matayasya Chaiva Prayaschittam Samarapanam Purusha Bhayavaira Ete Sambhara Sambrita Maya Gatayo Matayas Chaiva Prayas Chittam Samarpanam Purusha Bhayavaira Ete Sambhara Sambrita Maya Gatayo Matayas Chaiva Prayaschittam Samarpanam Purusha Bhayavaira Ete Sambhara Sambrita Maya Gatayo Matayas Chaiva Prayaschittam Samarpanam Purusha Bhayavaira Ete Sambhara Sambrita Maya Gatayo Matayas Shaiva Prayaschittam Samarpanam Purusha Bhayavair Ete Sambata Sambrita Maya Purusha Bhayavair Ete Sambhara Sambrita Maya
Gatayo Matayas
Shaiva Prayaschittam Samarpanam Purusha Bhayavair Ete Sambhara Sambrita Maya Gatayaha. Progress to the ultimate goal. Vishnu. Matayaha. Worshipping the demigods. Cha. As also. Eva. Certainly. Prayaschittam. Compensation. Samarpanam. Ultimate offering. Purusha. The personality of Godhead. Avayavai. From the parts of the body of the personality of Godhead. Ete. These. Sambhara. the ingredients, sambritaha, were arranged, maya, by me. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Sridham Prabhupada Ki. Thus, I had to arrange all these necessary ingredients and paraphernalia of sacrifice from the personal bodily parts of the personality of Godhead by invoking of the demigods' names. The ultimate goal, Vishnu, was gradually attained, and thus compensation and ultimate offering were complete. Kindly repeat after me. Thus I had to arrange all these necessary ingredients and paraphernalia of sacrifice from the personal bodily parts of the personality of Godhead by invocation of the demigods' names. The ultimate goal, Vishnu, was gradually attained, and thus compensation and ultimate offering were complete. Report. In this verse, special stress is given to the person of the Supreme Lord and not to his impersonal Dharmajyoti as being the source of all supplies. Narayana, the Supreme Lord, is a goal of sacrificial results, and therefore the Vedic hymns are ultimately meant for attaining this goal. Human life is thus made successful by pleasing Narayana and getting entrance into the direct association of Narayana in the spiritual kingdom of Vaikuntha. Translation again. Thus I had to arrange all these necessary ingredients and paraphernalia of sacrifice from the personal bodily parts of the personality of Godhead by invocation of the demigods' names. The ultimate goal, Vishnu, was gradually attained, and thus compensation and ultimate offering were complete. So this is Lord Brahma who is speaking to his son Narada, who, as we will recall, Narada was a little bit perplexed and was asking some clarification from his father. Narada Muni understood how powerful is Lord Brahma, but he was wondering whether there is someone beyond yourself. And in response to this question, Lord Brahma began to reveal the source of his power, the source of his knowledge, and the description of which developed into the description of the universal form of the Lord, is Virat Rupa. And all along, at different times including in this text and verse also, that although the Lord can be appreciated in his external feature, the vast creation of the material world is is a display of inconceivable powers and energies, but there is a source. There is a source to that power. There is a source to that energy. And that source, we are constantly being reminded, is a personality, is a person. Here, specific mention is made of Vishnu, Narayana. And of course, the goal of life, Ante Narayana Smriti, is to remember Narayana at the end of one's life. And one can more easily remember Vishnu or Narayana or Krishna by performing activities in one's lifetime that will facilitate that remembrance of the Lord. Now, in previous verses, it also mentions about demigods and how there are different types of sacrifice for pleasing different demigods also. So, Vedic literatures are filled with various processes, and part of which, actually a large part, the greater portion of the Vedic literatures are actually referring to what is called Karma Kanda section we mentioned. There's Karma Kanda, Jnana Kanda, Upasana Kanda. These different levels of activities or worship are mentioned in the Shastra. And the explanation is that majority of people who naturally come in the material world are conditioned by the modes of material nature, are attached to this body, are attached to sense gratification. So the injunctions of the Shastra take that into consideration, and therefore it is explained how one who is wanting to ultimately become relieved from the problems of this material world should take up activities of karma. There is karma. Karma means actually, generally, prescribed duties and prescribed activities according to the injunctions of Shastra. And part of that means actually worshipping demigods, even though it is for material goal or material benefit. So in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains to Arjuna about karma in the context of performing activities prescribed in the Shastra for gradual progress and elevation. And those who don't follow Shastra, means they don't follow Dharma. So those activities are identified as the karma, going against Shastra, for which one incurs karmic reaction. Of course, karma activities also one incurs karmic reaction, but for gradual elevation, gradual progress. Fortunately, there is a third category, which is especially for those who are very, very serious in putting an end to all of the problems in the material world, and those are that falls in what is called the category of akarma or nice karma. So karma means following Shastra, for which one gets positive reaction. One may get a better birth. One may be promoted to heavenly planet. Generally, people are performing religious activities for that purpose. But that is, we are reminded both in this verse and other verses as well, that is not the highest perfection. These are leading us to gradually come to the point of worshipping Vishnu, which of course is in the category of nice karma. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, of course, preached and stressed especially the process of akarma. Akarma means bhakti, devotional service. By performing such activities, one completely burns away or destroys all previous accumulated karma, and by performing pure devotional service, one does not incur or create any more karma. Karma is what is binding us and preventing us from actually leaving this material world. Karma. And due to ignorance, due to not having proper knowledge, we are constantly, those who are not having this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, we are constantly committing activities knowingly or unknowingly that are creating karmic reaction. So therefore, this is the constant, what is called wheel of samsara, whereby due to ignorance of the living entity, the conditioned soul simply continues his suffering in the material world. So therefore, cultivation of knowledge by associating with sadhus, by reading transcendental literatures that we find in the Vedas, Vedic literatures, are the beginning of how to become freed. Just like from the very beginning of the Bhagavatam, this is also nicely explained. And Prabhupada in the purport mentions how he points out how special stress is given to the person of the Supreme Lord and not to his impersonal Brahmajyoti. So this is important, essential, a principle established from the very beginning of the Bhagavatam. Those who actually, those who are Vedantists, those who are in knowledge, those who know, Vedanti tat tattva. That verse is explaining Vedanti tat tattva vigam tattva jnanam advayam brahmiti paramatmiti bhagavan iti sabjate. Let's see if we can find this verse here. This is in the yes, second canto of the Bhagavatam. Yeah, verse 11. Vedanti tat tattvavidas. Yes. Tattvavida means, we say tattvavit, those who are knowing tattva, those who understand what is actually reality. Those tattva means what is the truth. Vedanti tattvavidas tattvam yas jnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavan iti sabjate. Learned transcendent, one of the most important verses in the Bhagavatam that establishes that there is something beyond the impersonal feature, impersonal understanding. And the translation of this verse, of course, learned transcendentalists who know the absolute truth call the non-dual substance Brahman, Paramatma, or Bhagavan. These three levels of transcendence, transcendental realization. Yeah. So we can go to the next verse, 28. Iti sambrita sambhara purusha vayavair aham tam eva purusham jagnam tenaiva yajam ishvaram. Thus I created the ingredients and paraphernalia for offering sacrifice out of the parts of the body of the Supreme Lord, the enjoyer of the sacrifice, and I performed the sacrifice to satisfy the Lord. So in the purport, Prabhupada explains, people in general are always anxious to have peace of mind or peace in the world, but they do not know how to achieve such a standard of peace in the world. Such a peace in the world is obtainable by performances of sacrifice and by practice of austerity. In the Bhagavad Gita 5:29, the following prescription is recommended. Bhaktaram jagyatapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram Sridham sarvabhutanam gatva mam shantim richyati. Translation: the karma yogis know that the Supreme Lord is the factual enjoyer and maintainer of all sacrifices and of the austere life. They also know that the Lord is the ultimate proprietor of all the planets and is the factual friend of all living entities. Such knowledge gradually converts the karma yogis into pure devotees of the Lord through the association of unalloyed devotees, and thus they are able to be liberated from material bondage. And the purport continues here. Brahma, the original living being within the material world, taught us the way of sacrifice. The word sacrifice suggests dedication of one's own interest for satisfaction of a second person. Jagya. Why we perform jagya? We perform jagya as an offering to someone else. That someone else, of course, is Vishnu, Krishna. If we are materially motivated, that jagya will be to demigods, isn't it? So, because majority of people are materially motivated, even within the Vedic culture, because it's a long process. Therefore, majority of people worship demigods, and it is those very fortunate individuals who, after performing pious activities for a long period of time, they are favored by the Lord and come in contact with a pure devotee of the Lord, a Vaishnava, who can bring them beyond the level of performing sacrifice to demigods. So Prabhupada continues here, the word sacrifice suggests dedication of one's own interests for satisfaction of a second person. That is the way of all activities. Every man is engaged in sacrificing his interests for others, either in the form of family, society, community, country, or the entire human society. But perfection of such sacrifices is attained when they are performed for the sake of the Supreme Person, the Lord. Because the Lord is the proprietor of everything, because the Lord is the friend of all living creatures, and because He is the maintainer of the performer of sacrifice, as well as the supplier of the ingredients of sacrifice, it is He only and no one else who should be satisfied by all sacrifices. And the last paragraph of the purport, the whole world is engaged in sacrificing energy for advancement of learning, social upliftment, economic development, and plans for total improvement of the human condition. But no one is interested in sacrificing for the sake of the Lord, as it is advised in the Bhagavad Gita. Therefore, there is no peace in the world. If men at all want peace in the world, they must practice sacrifice in the interest of the Supreme Proprietor and friend of all. Yeah. So same point is being underlined here, that Prabhupada quoting another very important verse from the Bhagavad Gita, Bhoktaram Jagyatapasam, that all activities it is only when one comes to Krishna consciousness that one begins to understand that actually everything in this material world, including this body that I have, belongs to Krishna. He is the Bhokta. He is the Purusha and he is the Bhokta. Yes, by pleasing him or by satisfying him, then we automatically also become pleased or satisfied. Yes. So in this way, Lord Brahma is instructing Narada, and so that means that, yes, so many references in the Bhagavad Gita also regarding Jagya. Jagya is not only pouring ghee on the fire. That is one kind of Jagya. But Jagya is also means following or performing what is called prescribed duties. What are prescribed duties? What are prescribed duties? You've been reading too many books on Varnasrama. Prescribed duties are duties according to Shastra. Why we need to follow or perform duties according to Shastra? To please the Lord. Yes, ultimately to please the Lord, because by performing such duties that are prescribed in the Shastra, more easily we will be able to remember Krishna. And of course, because they are prescribed by Krishna, it's like somebody advises something, and if you take that good advice, that person will be pleased. But if somebody tells you something and you do the opposite, the parents will give a good instruction to their children. But sometimes, especially when the children start getting a little older, in their teens, when someone is smaller, usually they listen very nicely, attentively to parents. But young boys, young girls, when they, in their adolescent age, when they start to become more independent in their ways and in their thinking, they will not always listen to the good instructions of parents. So, just like if we have some people serving, if we have some kind of job and some people are working for us, if we give some instruction and if people don't follow, then we don't like it, naturally. So Krishna's instructions are in the form of Shastra. Of course, most people in the material world, outside of the Vedic culture, don't even know about Shastra, don't even know that Shastra exists. And even those who may know about Shastra, rare, as Krishna explains, of course, in the Bhagavad Gita, rare are those who actually come to know the essence of Shastra. After many, Bahunam Janmanamante, as Krishna explains, after many lifetimes, one may come to know what is actually the essence of Shastra. Vasudeva Sarvamiti Samahatma Sudolabha. Such a person is very, very rare. So, so Bhagavad Gita is that book of knowledge. It is the guiding manual for a whole of humankind since time immemorial. It's not that, a new guide manual is invented every other day, because the basic principles, the basic problems of life are always there for those who come to this material world. There are problems of birth, death, old age, and disease, the problems of the modes of material nature, the problem of the threefold miseries of life. They are the same today as they were 5,000 years ago, as they were millions of years ago, and as they will be after millions of years. So therefore, there is a standard, we call it standard manual, that doesn't need, like, those who are, all of us, we are connected with computers and cell phones, and they're constantly sending us an upgrade. Please kindly upgrade, new version. Bhagavad Gita doesn't have any new version, because it is complete. It has taken everything into consideration. Either Windows or Microsoft or Mac computers are always sending their customers upgrades, because they're finding, some fault is there, or we're getting this complaint, and like that, because it is incomplete, imperfect. The beauty and the wonderful quality of these literatures, that's why they are so attractive. These literatures, Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, all the Vedic literatures, they are complete. They are perfect and complete. That is one of the prayers we recite every day. Bhagavatam is perfect and complete. So therefore, when we learn these basic teachings from Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, so one of those important teachings is, what is the perfection of Jagya? The perfection of Jagya, or sacrifice, is ultimately pleasing the Supreme Lord by following the good instructions that are given in the Shastra for our ultimate well-being, ultimate welfare. So part of that is very much prescribed duties, which I'll just read you. Someone sent me a very nice quote, which is actually from the first canto of the Bhagavatam, and someone sent a portion of that verse. I added a little bit to that, and here it is, from, well, actually 1:16:31. Since I have the book here, I'll read from the book. 1:16. 1:16. That means at the end, not quite the end, but yeah. Wow. 1:16 practically hit the page. 31. Those who have. So I'll just read the verse and then quickly the 1:16. Wow, quite a long purport. No, I'm sorry. 1:16:31. Number 30 is quite long. 31. This is the verse in which Prabhupada gives a very important quote. Atmanam chanushochami bhavantam chamarotamam devan pitrin rishin sadhun sarvan varnams tathasraman. Yes. The translation: I am thinking about myself and also, O best amongst the demigods, about you, as well as about all the demigods, sages, denizens of Pitriloka, devotees of the Lord, and all men obedient to the system of Varna and Asrama in human society. So this is the verse, the section in the purport, which is very pertinent. The distinction between human life and animal life. You translate that to him, right? The distinction between human life and animal life therefore begins with the scientific system of Varna and Asrama, guided by the experience of the sages in relation with the demigods, gradually rising to the summit of establishing our eternal relationship with the Supreme Absolute Truth, the personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Vishnu. So part of that process is also worshipping demigods. But that is not the end. It is the process by which gradually, by purification, one will come to the ultimate goal or destination, which is to worship Vishnu. Same that is mentioned here. Those who don't know about Krishna should worship demigods. Those who know about Krishna don't need to worship demigods, isn't it? Not that we neglect or disrespect demigods, but we know that when Krishna is pleased, all the demigods are also pleased. If one doesn't know about Krishna, then he should worship demigods. That is injunction of Shastra. And then the other portion, when God made Varnasrama Dharma, which is strictly meant for developing animal consciousness into human consciousness and human consciousness into godly consciousness. From animal consciousness to human consciousness, from human consciousness to godly consciousness. When this system is broken by advancement of foolishness, what does that mean? By advancement of foolishness means by all kinds of activities which are not in keeping with the goal and the purpose of life. Modern day civilization falls in that category. It is maha foolishness. All of the activities that are being promoted, the vast majority of activities, are simply on the bodily platform for sense gratification, isn't it? So, when this system is broken by advancement of foolishness, modern day science largely falls in this category. The whole system of peaceful and progressive life is at once disturbed, isn't it? And in the age of Kali, the first attack of the venomous snake strikes against the God-made Varnasrama Dharma. So therefore, in this verse and purport, as in many other verses and purports, the importance of it is like, we'll just finish on this point here, just like when we study the nectar of devotion, which is the guideline for all of us for spiritual life, bhakti, the science of bhakti. That science of bhakti, which ultimately is meant to bring us to the lotus feet of Krishna, begins with practice, begins with regulations. It is called actually devotional service in practice. we are not yet purified, and we may still have all kinds of material desires. Still, we practice bhakti uh, with the idea that by the more we practice, the more we become regulated in our activities, then the more we gradually become purified, isn't it? So that initial level of practice by following rules and regulations will gradually lead us to the higher levels. So in a similar way, that system of varna and varnasrama is also following different rules and regulations. Varnasrama, therefore, is akin to sadhana bhakti. When activities in Varnasrama are directed to Krishna, which is what the Daiva Varnasrama is teaching us. Yeah. Yeah. gradually perfecting the individual so that one can fully dedicate all of one's activities in the service and for the pleasure and satisfaction of Krishna. So one more time, we'll just read here our verse today. Lord Brahma to Narada, my dear son, therefore, this is tomorrow's verse, today's verse. Thus I created the ingredients and paraphernalia for offering sacrifice out of the parts of the body of the Supreme Lord. Out of the parts of the body, just like we perform jagya. For jagya, we need wood. So wood comes from material nature, which is the part of the body of the Supreme Lord. The enjoyer of the sacrifice, and I perform the sacrifice to satisfy the Lord. Comments? Questions? Yes?
Can we say that worshipping of demigods leads to the worship of Krishna? Can we make this as a box statement?
Yes. Worshipping of demigods leads to the worship of Krishna for those who are not knowing about Krishna. When we know about Krishna, then we don't need to worship separately the demigods. Isn't it? So the whole Vedic literatures are including worship of demigods for those who are still conditioned, those who are still not knowing about devotional service. Of course, one who reads Bhagavatam does clearly mention at the same time that even if one is materially motivated, akarma sarvakamova moksha karma udaradi trivena bhakti yogena, still one should perform bhakti. That instruction generally, if one is fortunate to receive that instruction, that means he will very soon, if he has been engaged in worship of demigods, very soon he'll give up that worship of demigods and simply be engaged in worshiping Krishna. Because that's a problem. For example, in Vedic culture, majority of people they are mesmerized by so many different personalities, isn't it? Like this, millions of demigods, some of them more prominent than others. And to come out of that state of confusion is not so easy. to make that statement or to take that position that Krishna Stu Bhagavan Swayam, of all of these great personalities whom are described in the Shastras, there is actually one original Supreme Personality of Godhead. So those who are, again, not having this understanding, they are, that is the recommendation in the Shastra, karma, performing activities by satisfying different demigods, and then gradually one will become purified. Those who are fortunate to know about Krishna or about the Sankirtan process given by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then very quickly they will go beyond this worship of demigods. And of course, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna also condemns worship of demigods because that worship is it is generally materially motivated. Anything else? Okay. Jai Granthara Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Jai Sri Prabhupada ki, Gaura Premanandi.